Welcome to LOGOS X RHEMA, a channel dedicated to the ministry of Apostle Arome Osayi. This is a place where the written word meets the living word of Christ, where revelation is unveiled, prayer is stirred, and hearts are set on fire for God. Our desire is to help you grow in intimacy with the Lord, to equip you with sound doctrine, and to awaken a deeper hunger for the presence of God. Through the teachings and prophetic insights of Apostle Arome Osayi, we believe you will be strengthened, transformed, and prepared to walk in the fullness of God's purpose for your life. Stay with us, like, comment, and subscribe.
An altar is a metaphor that symbolizes sacrifice, the dialect that spirit beings understand, the dialect that they can relate with, the dialect that they can respond to is the dialect of sacrifice. It will interest you to know that when we talk about altars, we are using it in the broad sense, not just because as we study, we will differentiate between righteous altars and evil altars. But whether it is a righteous altar or an evil altar, it is a metaphor that is used to symbolize sacrifice. This is the wisdom that David manifested. He was offered everything that was needed. There was a catastrophe in the land. And the catastrophe that hit the land was because the government, led by David, decided to do something with the authority of the throne that was contrary to prescription. If our planning and strategy is supposed to be our means of advancing our economy and bringing us out of the waters, then the viability of our budget is a strategic tool to predict whether or not it has the capacity to bring out of the current economic situation. So David used the authority of his throne. There was a policy of government that he initiated that was contrary to the will of God. The consequence of that policy was nationwide. So if the devil wants to afflict a people, all he needs to do is to manipulate their government. And their government will come up with policies that, are you there? That will bring them into reproach. So that is what David did. Unfortunately for David, the impact of the number of casualties that resulted from his seemingly innocent policy was so much that he had no justification to give another decree if he doesn't find a means to salvage the situation. Thank God he had a prophet that still had the Lord's ear, Prophet Gad. And Prophet Gad was able to see into the realm of the spirit and saw how that the angel was killing people, plundering people, afflicting people all through the land. And saw that the angel, when he arrived at Onan's threshing floor, he stopped. So he now gave a prophecy to David by reason of the word of wisdom. And say, if you set up an altar in Onan's threshing floor, you will restrain the authority of this angel. So based on that wisdom, they were going to Onan's threshing floor. When they got there, because the man too operated the gift of the discernment of spirit, he saw the angel and he took cover. So when David came, he came out of his hiding place to talk to David. He was willing to give David the threshing floor, willing to even provide the oxen for the sacrifice and probably meat offering, part of his wheat. He wanted to gather onto David so that that sacrifice can be offered. Because everybody was, including himself, they were living in fear of their lives. So if my threshing floor plus some of my bulls and wheat harvest will stop this plague, then I am most delighted to be a donor of such sort to end the plague that is in the land. And David, even though the situation was critical, there was pressure on government. There were several things he learned about priesthood that played out in the way he went about fulfilling the instruction that came from the prophet. He knew that the dialect that spirit beings can understand is the dialect of sacrifice. So even though it was offered to him for free, he knew that if he offers what was given to him for free, it will have no vocabulary. It will sound like wind, without demand, without petition. He said, no, even though I appreciate your generosity, I will not offer unto God that which cost me nothing. So it means David has a spiritual knowledge, and he knows that it is only that which is sacrificial that will be able to attract the attention of a spirit being. So an altar is a metaphor that depicts sacrifice, and sacrifice is the dialect that spirits understand. In 2 Samuel chapter 23, I will read from verse number 15. And David longed and said, "Oh, that one will give me drink of the water of the well of Bethlehem, which is by the gate." And the three mighty men brake through the host of the Philistines and drew water out of the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and took it and brought it to David. Nevertheless, he would not drink thereof, but poured it out unto the Lord. Let's get his comment. And he said, "Be it far from me, O Lord, that I should do this. Is not this," he's talking about the water, "is not this water the blood of men that went in jeopardy of their lives?" Therefore he will not drink it. You know, I told you David was trained by a prophet. He longed for water to drink. That was his village, the well that he drank when he was a small boy. Now, because of political crisis, the Philistines were now in occupation of his village, and the well that he drank was no longer accessible. And David longed, and he said, "Oh, that one will give me drink of the water of Bethlehem." It was a legitimate longing. What I drank when I was a small boy, is it possible for me to drink it again? It was a personal longing. He was not giving the soldiers marching orders. And the soldiers took his personal longing to become marching orders. It will interest you to know that it takes 5 years to train a legionnaire. A legionnaire is one that is competent in the use of the sword and the shield, which is a basic attack and defense equipment. But it happens to be that the period that David was running away from Saul, which is the time that he assumed occupation of Cave Adullam, was 12 years. So in these 12 years, they were training for battle, and they had no opportunity for a fight. So when they heard the longing from David, they converted it to be a battle cry. When they, I don't want to describe that fight because it's difficult to even imagine it. 3 guys going against 2,000, because that's what a garrison is. As the 3 guys are fighting, then the 2 guys will now be blocking 1 guy. He will now fetch water. And the moment he holds that water, I can no longer fight effectively because it will spill it. How they accomplished, I don't know how they did it, but they brought the water to David. David cried out and said, "It is an abomination for him to drink that water, because in the eyes of the spirit," are you there? That water has been transformed. The quality, the value of that water is equivalent to the effort that was put into it to get it. So David called that water blood. May your eyes be open to see where normal mundane things take on a different value because of what was put in to secure it. Once upon a time, someone that was into prostitution business brought money to church. You don't want to hear me. The value of that money is equivalent to the effort that was used to get it. Are you there? So the Lord cannot receive that one because the value it has is only a demonic altar that can receive that offering. You are not with. It's still money. Oh my God. It's still money. But you see, prophetically, the effort that was put in to get it now determines its value. Now, the question I want you to ask yourself and answer is, what if David drank it, that water? Not, you don't think that way. You only think one way. I am asking you now, what if David drank that water? I hope you know. Even God doesn't accept human sacrifice. Abraham was to sacrifice his son to God. And at some point, God stopped Abraham from the actual sacrifice when he saw that in Abraham's heart, he had released the boy. So in between the time the boy was released from his heart and the actual sacrifice took place, God said, "Stop. I've received the offering from your heart. But because I don't sponsor, my altar is not an evil altar. It's not capable of taking human blood." On the strength of that which Abraham did, God blessed him.
Welcome to LOGOS X RHEMA, a channel dedicated to the ministry of Apostle Arome Osayi. This is a place where the written word meets the living word of Christ, where revelation is unveiled, prayer is stirred, and hearts are set on fire for God. Our desire is to help you grow in intimacy with the Lord, to equip you with sound doctrine, and to awaken a deeper hunger for the presence of God. Through the teachings and prophetic insights of Apostle Arome Osayi, we believe you will be strengthened, transformed, and prepared to walk in the fullness of God's purpose for your life. Stay with us